Welcome to this little class about your microdosing schedule. We're going to be talking about 2 or 3 different schedules and approaches for the frequency with which you can take your microdose. And then I will be taking your questions and helping you discern which schedule is right for you. There is no one size fits all with microdosing, and that's the beauty and also a little bit of the complexity, because we're not just going to print this stuff on the side of a bottle and give everybody the same prescription, right? So there's the classic schedule, the first one that most people hear about, or the first one I tried, the only one I thought you could try 4.5 years ago when I started microdosing: 1 day on and 2 days off. James Fadiman came up with this schedule. If you want to look at Fadiman's book, The Psychedelic Explorer's Guide, he really is the grandfather of all of this. There is a chapter in there on microdosing, I believe, and it was the first time in print somebody had ever talked about just taking small doses in real life and not just going on a trip or a journey. And he broke ground with this idea. The 1 on 2 off schedule, or every 3rd day, is a fantastic schedule. I approve of this schedule if you want to give it a try. The pros of this schedule are that you get to feel the contrast between your on day and the 2 off days. On the microdosing day, it may not be all rainbows and butterflies and warmth and sunshine and magic. I feel a personal responsibility to continue to say this to folks, because I had some warm and fuzzy, sparkly days, and then there were many days where I was like, what's gone wrong here, right? What's wrong with this microdose? I'm feeling emotional. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling a lot of energy moving. I'm feeling rage-filled. Some of that is making sure your dose is correct, and microdosing doesn't take your problems away. Microdosing reveals. Psychedelics reveal. You can microdose mushrooms, you can microdose LSD, you can microdose ayahuasca, you can microdose any number of psychedelics, mescaline as well. Most of my experience pertains to psilocybin, and this is where you'll find most of the research and anecdotal evidence around psilocybin specifically. So 1 day on, and that may be a fabulous day, it may be a messy day, full disclosure. Then you have the 2nd day, the 1st day off. Some people refer to this as the afterglow day. Does anybody here who microdose feel like the day after you microdose is a little bit better than the microdosing day? That's because you're integrating. You stirred things up on the microdosing day. You revealed some stuff, right? So on a microdosing day, this is my classic example. It's show me how to lead from love with my teenager, my almost 14-year-old son. How do I lead from love? How do I not just start telling him all of the things he is doing wrong when I see him? Because there's so many things, right? And tell him what I appreciate and love first, right? And I set this intention for weeks, because every time I opened my mouth on a microdosing day, I was not leading from love. And I knew this prior to setting the intention, but the microdose shone the spotlight on it for me, to the point where it was like, oh my gosh, I am my mother and my grandfather all wrapped into one crazy package, right? I really got to feel the ancestral wound of this critical part of me coming through me. The microdose revealed it. The day after the microdose was the easier day for me to saddle up with my kid and say, like, hey, you want me to walk the dog with you tonight? Right? And like create a little opportunity for bonding. The afterglow day, the 2nd day, the integration day. If you've ever done a journey, you know the days after a journey, it's like everything's fabulous, right? There's not a lot that's going to bother you after 4 grams of mushrooms for a few days. There is an afterglow to psychedelics. Maria, I feel a lot of openness with 1 tiny drop. Yes, this is with my liquid tincture Maria is talking about. If I'd like to try 2 drops, how soon should I take the 2nd after the 1st? Maria, great question. This is a dosage question. She's still trying to find her sweet spot using the liquid version of the medicine. And if she'd like to try 2, Maria, you're going to take 2 at the same time. You can stagger your dose. You can split your dose up, guys. You could take 2 drops in the morning and 2 drops in the afternoon. If the afternoon is when you're done with work and you need to transition your energy and you need more support, you can split them up, Maria. If you're nervous to try them at the same time, I suggest trying 2 at the same time on a day when you don't have a lot to do and see how that feels. With the schedule, we're talking about 1 day on and 2 days off. My pro point, what works about the schedule is being in the contrast. Here's what it feels like to be on the dose. Here's what it feels like to be off the dose on an afterglow day. And then that 3rd day, that's really the contrast day. There's no afterglow and there's no medicine in your system. I used to dread that 3rd day when I was first pulling myself up and out of some dark depression. I will be honest about that. And it helped me learn how to be in that without becoming terrified that I was getting sucked back into that as my permanent state, right? This is just what's happening right now. I can accept and love myself on this day, and tomorrow it's probably going to be different. And it was, because I would microdose again. So 1 day on, 2 days off. It's also a great schedule to conserve your medicine. It's really going to be the best way to ride out the most of the medicine, giving yourself that afterglow day. So you're getting really 2 days of support, right? The microdosing day could be a messy day, the afterglow day, and then your contrast day, and then you come back again. Any questions about the 1 day on, 2 day off schedule? Every 3rd day, I call it. The downside of this schedule, it might not be enough medicine and support for you if you're really struggling. In the beginning, I didn't know that I could do consecutive days, and I suffered on a lot of 3rd days. So if you are in a really dark place, if your anxiety feels wildly out of control, if you are having suicidal ideations, if your PTSD symptoms, OCD, everything is super activated, this schedule might not be enough for you. This is a beautiful schedule for someone who's using this for performance enhancement, right? Getting that book written that you've been writing for 20 years and procrastinating, right? Having your microdosing day be your creativity day. Okay, so that's the every 3rd day schedule, the James Fadiman schedule. I want to be clear about this. You can't dose every day. I'm sure everybody in here knows this. You cannot microdose every day. If you could, I would. You can't. You will build a tolerance. Some people get super freaked out about this and they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot my schedule and I accidentally dosed too many days or didn't take a break. It takes a hot minute for this to happen, for the tolerance to build. So you don't have to freak out. It's not like you messed up with a pharmaceutical and there's going to be an instant side effect, right? This is a plant and there's a forgiving nature to it. And if you start to build a tolerance, guess what the cure is? You just take a break. About 2 weeks is a really beautiful tolerance break and a period of integration. And I'm going to talk about integration in a minute and how to know when to take a break. Okay, the next schedule, the Paul Stamets schedule. Stamets is the mushroom guy, Fantastic Fungi movie. He is awesome, all self-taught, and is just a master. He proposed 4 or 5 days in a row of microdosing, vastly different from the Fadiman schedule, right? Boom, 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 boom. Monday through Friday, if your job is the thing you need the support with, right? And you're at a 9 to 5, it's a pretty clean schedule. 4 or 5 days on, 2 or 3 days off. So if you're going to look at a calendar week, you're 5 on, 2 off, or 4 on, 3 off. If it's easiest for you to do it that way. I dose Monday through Thursday, I take off Friday through Sunday. Or if the weekend, right? Any moms here? It's like all week long, you want it to be the weekend, and then it's the weekend, and you're like, oh my God, no, I can't do the weekend. Take me back to the week, right? So if you need support during the weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then you integrate during the week, right? This schedule, the pros of this schedule, ongoing support if you really are struggling to get stable. If you're doing this, you may need a schedule to help you just start feeling some stability with your mental and emotional health. Another pro of this, you really build up the learning, right? Imagine 5 days of me in a row setting the intention of show me how to lead with love. And I homeschooled this kid, right? So there's 1,000,000 times a day for me to practice leading from love, and 5 days in a row of me collecting data towards my intention. Oh, I noticed when I the best time to approach him is after my morning breath work and prayer time. Okay. This is the observer, the witness that's really turned on when you're microdosing. I can be in the trigger with the 14-year-old, him like doing all the things that make me want to start yelling, right? But on a microdosing day, I can feel my feet on the ground and I can say, oh, this is really interesting. I think I'm triggered right now, but I can stand here and just look at him and nod and say, I see you, I hear you. Instead of living my trigger, being my trigger, coming from the trigger. Make sense? Building up the learning and then taking those days off to let it settle and integrate. So that on the days off, I can notice, what's this like? What improvements have we made in our relationship this week based on my intentionality throughout the week with the medicine and with what I'm asking the medicine to do? The downside of this schedule, 4 or 5 days in a row, it can be too drastic a come down on the days off for some folks. There can be a little bit of a crash feeling for some people. I do not experience this. Chime in if you have. It also uses a lot of your medicine. 5 days of microdosing in a row every week, right, is a lot of microdosing days in a month. Depending on your tolerance and how much medicine you need, this could be factored as a true expense for you at that schedule. Something to consider. Any questions about these two schedules before I talk about a DIY schedule and integration and taking breaks? Y'all are here to absorb tonight. I love it. So 1 day on, 2 days off, 4 or 5 days on, 2 or 3 days off, or the intuitive schedule, the DIY schedule, the what's going on in my life and how can I plan to use this medicine to support me 1 to 20 times this month. If you're a monthly planner, this is a beautiful thing to sketch out for your month. If you plan every week for the week ahead, if you need to just wake up and go, how much support do I need today? And did I microdose yesterday like I do? That's an okay approach too. Okay, the DIY schedule, the intuitive schedule. Some people do every other day. I worry a little bit about building a tolerance with that one. I do think 2 days needs to happen but at least 2 days break before you come back into another cycle. But the most common thing that I hear is like 3 or 4 days on, 3 or 4 days off. Split it evenly, 50-50. This gives you more integration time. 4 days on, 4 days off. This doesn't fit in the neat little weekly package that some people want it to fit in. Or pick your 2 days or 3 days this week to microdose and take the other 4 or 5 off. DIY schedule. The pro of this is that you're really working with your nature and your instincts, your life, the practical aspects of it, who you are, what you need, getting to really tune in. That's a gift and a practice. The cons of this, it's easy to forget when the heck you last microdosed if you have a lot on your plate. Was that yesterday or the day before, right? This is why I encourage you to keep a log and track. Write down. You think you're going to remember. Maybe you have a better memory than me, right? I had an alarm set on my iPhone for the first 2 years I microdosed that said microdosing day. And sometimes I would go, I'm going to move that to tomorrow, or, oh my gosh, thank God, right? I need to do 2 in a row. So write it down, log your intention. Here's how much I took. Here was my intention. And then at the end of the day, it's the best thing in the world. It can take 10 seconds. You don't have to journal endlessly, but really reflect on your day and look back at your intention. I'll forget my intention a lot and then come back to it and be like so moved because it came through. It still came through and I didn't have to march through my day going, show me how to lead from love. It just was there in my heart and in my actions. You can overdo it or underdo it with the intuitive schedule. I will either meet people who are like waiting for the perfect day all the time and they end up microdosing never. And they're like, I don't know what's wrong. I still don't feel good, but I dosed once last month, right? The consistency is really important here. You're not going to experience shifts in your state dosing once a month. You might have a fun day, right? Maybe it's a ritual day. Maybe you get out into a state park. That's great. Use it. I have no judgment for your once a month schedule. And don't come back and say, I don't know what's wrong. You have to be consistent with this medicine. The other extreme I see is people who overdo it. I tend to fall in this category. I have lots of it in my possession, so it feels like water. And so I have to really check myself. I had an incident earlier in the year where I took too much, too fast, without setting an intention on a very careless day. And I had a full-blown psychedelic experience on a Saturday morning at 10 a.m. when I was supposed to be teaching a class that I had to reschedule, right? And I took almost a month off after that. I got a huge hit from grandfather medicine. Psilocybin is called grandfather medicine. It was like, grandpa was in my ear like, young lady, you are not respecting this medicine. I was like, I'm sorry, grandpa, I'm gonna take a break now. And I've had tremendous respect for the medicine since that incident. So taking a break, let's talk about taking a break. How do you know when to take a break? A couple of things. If you're experiencing more stuff coming up than stuff resolving or integrating, you might be ready for a break, or you might be using too much too frequently. The idea here isn't to empty out every single closet in the house into a giant pile in the middle of the house and then look at it and start crying and saying, how will I ever figure all of this out, right? The idea here is to go to one closet and one shelf at a time and let that be unpacked, and then process it, dust it, decide what stays and what goes, let go of what goes, put back in the closet what stays. Makes sense? Yeah. So if too much is coming up, I'll see this a lot with someone who's like, I'm raging out at my husband and kids. Like this medicine's making me angry. This medicine is revealing anger that's unexpressed. So tread lightly when you start to feel rage coming through, and lean on tools like breath work. So people will say, oh my gosh, I'm feeling rageful. Let me take more. I'm feeling rageful. Let me pause and move through this energy. Not shove it back down. It's there. It's like, see me. It's time to see me. It's time to feel me, right? Great, fabulous. You're ready for it. It's coming up. This is not a time to take more medicine. It's not a numbing medicine. It's going to bring up more. Or someone will say to me, I'm just crying a lot. I'm crying all the time. It's beautiful to cry. Move that energy. And if there's more sobbing happening, then integration, reconciliation, coming back home to yourself, being with the part of you that's sobbing, you're taking too much medicine too frequently. This is about staying close to yourself. This is about being on your own side. I talk about this a lot with parts work inside of my work, my programs, my membership. This is about partnering with you to process the parts of you that are asking to be seen and heard as this medicine reveals them. So, one approach is to microdose for a month at whatever schedule you like, and then take off 2 weeks. What came through? What do you notice? I thought I was going to be suffering that whole month that I took off after I had my careless thing. I felt awesome. I felt great. I use cannabis. I think cannabis, if you use it and like it, can be used in microdoses, intentional doses. Most people who say I can't use it, I freak out, it's too much. It's too much. It's too much. Most people are overusing cannabis, right? Yeah. Robert agrees with me, way overusing it, right? Even like one hit can be too much for someone, which is why you want to find a nice sublingual drops, cannabis drops, or edibles. Cut the edible in quarters. I tell the moms, eat just the ear of the bear first. Don't eat the whole bear, right? Just a little bit. especially on a microdosing day and an integration day. Any part of the process, any one of the days, if you want to and get benefit from cannabis, it can be very helpful for integration, for a lot of the ahas. Oh, right. That's when I get my like, oh, I should approach him in the morning, my son, right? Or, oh, at nighttime is the best time to bring that up. The things start clicking into place. Another approach, 3 months on, 1 month off. Take a whole season to microdose. I really love looking at things in seasonal chunks between equinoxes and solstices. And then take a break. Curious if anybody has any integration questions, when to take a break, how to know when you need a break, or really you're just curious. Hey, I've been microdosing for 6 months. It's been an awesome, cool experience. Let's see what happens if I stop now. Let's see what's come through. You don't lose the ahas that you had. They don't go away. You still retain what you got from the microdosing experience. You're not going to have the serotonin running through your brain, which is why some people get nervous and scared to stop, because there is a warm, fuzzy lift that can happen as well with the serotonin. Drop your questions in the chat. Or type in the chat, which schedule is right for you right now? Which schedule is right for you right now? It may change. I will do a giveaway tonight, guys. In about 5 minutes, I will give away a sample of a liquid tincture. Microdosing schedule. Which schedule is right for you? How do you know when to take a break? Right? How do you want to integrate this medicine and this learning into your experience and your life? I strongly suggest that you couple your microdosing experience with nature, as much nature as you can. People get caught up on this too. I'm not going to microdose today because I can't go outside. Don't do that. And don't not take your microdose because, well, I'm not going to give bossy advice. Access nature when you can on a microdosing day and on an integration day and on all the days. Please, guys, we're so nature deprived in our culture. And I know there's bugs, and I know it's hot, and then I know it's cold. And then you tell me it's hot again, and then you tell me it's cold. We're about to come into a middle season where it's not hot or cold, and you can always bundle up or take the bundles off. I know there are bugs. I know there are ticks, right? We're a Lyme disease household. We are aware of ticks, right? And you can do a tick check, and you can put lemongrass spray on you. Nature is asking you to access it. Good question from Beverly here. How can you also work in heroic doses between all this microdosing? Yes, I have done a few higher doses, the largest 5 grams. Good for you. That one was very healing. I've not tried microdosing yet because going to an ayahuasca journey this weekend. Yes, and I want to wait a bit. This is a really good question, Beverly. Just finding that balance between the journey work that you're doing and the microdosing. So I would look at it as microdosing being the bridge between each of your journeys to carry the intention forward. So I like to have a journey and then use the same intention I used in that journey for my microdosing a few weeks after the journey, to almost remember and keep the journey alive for myself. It's not a separate intention. Tie it in with all of your other intentions for your larger journeys. You do generally want to take a break for at least 2 weeks before a large journey dose. I have microdosed all the way up into having a journey. It's not ideal. You're not going to feel as much of the medicine. The idea is to abstain, right? A good guide is going to tell you abstain from crappy food and alcohol, right? And recreational drugs and all of that 2 weeks prior to a journey. That's a great guide that you're working with. I love that. And I will tell people who are going to do journey size doses with me to do the same. And I think people can get really also caught up on like, I'm not doing it perfectly, so I'm not going to have the perfect journey, right? Really listen to your intuition, really listen to what you need. Early on, if I had taken 2 weeks off of microdosing leading up to a journey, I might have slipped way back down into a dark space for me. So I would keep up almost a nano dose on days when I was really struggling, just to be that bridge to get me to the journey. But you decide, we don't have the research to know. I'm really glad to hear you're doing all of this beautiful journey work, Beverly. Good for you. Question from Joan. If you've decided on a second already, as soon as possible, let me start again. If you've decided on a second already, as soon as possible after, unless you want that openness to last longer throughout the day, in my opinion. Subjectively, you might possibly consider trying both schedules and see the key differences for you as well. I think Joan is offering advice here. And let me know if there's a question here, Joan. Thank you for your share. Try both. Yeah, so try everything with curiosity. This is why we have guides. This is why we have experts. And I'm not the expert on you. Don't work with anybody that tells you they're the expert on you. You're the expert on you. I'm here to guide you to your own expertise with information that I have that could be considered. There is a real guru culture that also exists in the psychedelic world. I've had some unsavory encounters with shamans and guides who think they're God. You won't ever get that from me. I won't even let you call me a healer. You're your own healer. Okay, but that's just my style in here. Other methods for integration, says Chelsea. Yeah, great question. Sometimes I feel like I don't let things settle in before moving on to the next dose. Really good honesty, and I am guilty of the same, right? Let's get to the more healing, right? We think more doses, more journeys, more microdosing equals more healing. And that is not always the case. It may not ever be the case, right? That's you opening all the closets and then maybe having to circle back around to a closet that you just shoved everything back in real fast and didn't integrate on, and one of the shelves is now falling, right? And it's like, oh, I gotta come back to this closet. Yeah, do we like this metaphor? Okay, good. So Chelsea, methods for integration, and maybe y'all can chime in on the chat on what you think, but I think journaling is brilliant when we're talking about microdosing. Some people just get so frustrated when I give that answer. They're like, I've tried to journal. Journaling is so hard. It can be if you care about what's coming out of the pen. Don't care. I burn every single one of them without rereading any of them. For me, it's a processing tool. Just move it out of your thoughts, move it out of your mind, get it onto the paper. If you are an external processor, you talk to a therapist, you have a partner you talk to, you can externally process some of that as well. But there is power in the spoken and the written word. You cannot integrate your entire experience of something in your own head by thinking about it. You're not integrating. You're not. Process it. If you're not a processor by words, get in your body, go surfing, go boxing, take a yoga class. The most brilliant thing I think you can do after a journey is get a full body massage. Just work it through the body, work the medicine through the body, right? I will connect a whole bunch of dots as she's moving my shoulder around. It's like, oh my gosh, it was in my shoulder, right? Like, we love to talk and process in our heads, get into the body to get out of the mind, always. And this is where breath work comes in, guys. Chelsea, you're doing a lot of breath work, and now that you're in the membership, I know you're going to be doing more integrating without even realizing it. So I think that's your rock star tool for integration. But yeah, in and through the body. In and through the body. Being super sensitive to cannabis, says Maria, and psilocybin, I'm worried about the lock-in bad feelings when I'm not my best self. Yeah, Maria, what's a lock-in? Meaning you're feeling stuck? So only dosing on good days. Ooh, is this a cowardly way to learn? I love your transparency, and I love this question. I want to offer you a reframe on cowardly. I think this is the way that your nervous system is able to do it right now. This is you toe dipping and accessing safety for yourself. That's what I'm feeling before going into a little bit of the darker, murkier waters that you're currently feeling hesitant about. You are never going to hear from me, go faster, go harder, dive in, right? I was pushing you a little bit in that breathwork session. You can do more. You can let yourself be uncomfortable. You're stronger than you think, right at the edge there. At an 11-minute session, you will have breathwork facilitators who will yell at you to not stop breathing for an hour and a half, no matter what's happening to your body, and tell you don't listen. Even if you're breaking down, even if you're hysterical, don't stop breathing. That is not trauma-informed work to me. I am always going to tell you, my cues are second to your body, right? So if this is how you want to learn right here, and you're right at the start, Maria, let yourself learn this way and truthfully ask yourself, is this my nervous system's response? Right? Fight, flight, freeze, fawn, flop. Which one of those are you doing? Maybe, right? How we do one thing is how we do everything. So this is the way your nervous system is allowing you to access safety. At some point, maybe you're ready for a microdose on a not so good day. Yeah? You don't have to use cannabis if it doesn't suit you. Chelsea says, I love this. I will be journaling and burning. Yeah, burn it. I burned a whole journal last night under the full moon. It was so good. Joan says learning is never cowardly. Oh, and she has a message for you. I agree. Let's give you a refrain on the word cowardly, Maria. You are someone who's actually microdosing. Do you know how many people tell me they want to, but they're just too afraid to even start? So you're not a coward. Yeah. Joan waited after her first microdose until she observed a shift in her perception of self and her awareness as a controlled experiment. I took about 9 weeks on a microdose. I didn't feel it at all, if that helps. Yes, beautiful. Thank you for sharing your experience there. Type me in the chat if you want to be considered for the one sample giveaway that I'm going to do tonight. Just write me in the chat. So that's all for the presentation on microdosing schedules. I hope that you were able to pull some information here about what schedule might be best for you.